Good afternoon and welcome. If you have the courage to do so, please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. But especially share, because if you do that, I argue that within 2 years, we will be able to say with much confidence that we are a government of, by, and for the people. And also, truth is the power to condemn or convict. Go to my webpage, fightfordecency.com, and you'll see what I'm talking about that when I say that. Having said that, again, welcome. Today, I want to talk about how the most important thing we could do to ensure that we have a more decent, more peaceful, more prosperous society for the working class here in America is to fight for something that we all have in common. And that is that we all, whether you wear a red suit or a blue suit, whether you're an independent, libertarian, whatever you are, we all recognize that we do not have a government of, by, and for the people, that our votes don't actually count, they don't matter. It was pretty interesting. I was given a business card about this general strike to a lady, and she looked at me and she says, "Well, I vote." And it only took about 30 seconds for me to explain that there are two elections in America. The first one is with wealthy, what I call the wealthy and holy bankers, corporations, and oligarchs. With their money, they have their what Lawrence Lessig would call the money primary. Once they get done with their election and figure out who they like that will represent their interests, then they turn around and say, "Now it's your turn to vote." Okay, so we believe that's not a representative government. That's corruption. That's oligarchy. And we believe that if we, the people, had our own opportunity to pick our own representative, that we would have a much more peaceful society, much more one that prospers, where everyone prospers, not only business, but the working class too. Now, some would argue that, well, we had that chance. And we had Bernie Sanders, where our dollars were equal to the rich person's dollar, and he was up there as a nominee. And for the first time in history, a president or a candidate won, I think, four and very controversially five first primaries and still lost the nomination. And the reason for this is because of the corruption of how both parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, find a way to cheat and get these people that they don't want in office. So, what I argue on this webpage and this effort and this grassroots movement, this general strike, is that we can put the kind of pressure on those wealthy individuals that hold the power in our country in such a way that the pressure will be in such a way that they will have to give us what we demand, which is to reintroduce the Citizens Equality Act of 2017, which Professor Lawrence Lessig is behind and has been pushing for, I guess, 2 decades now. In my webpage, fightfordecency.com, the third prerequisite for a prosperous middle class is this understanding that we have a lot of problems in America, and we're not going to be able to fix any of them unless we fix this problem first, which is to rid ourselves of the corruption in our electoral system. Now, some people say we need to get money of um, politics. Well, I argue, not to be, you know, facetious or anything. I argue that we need to put money in the sense that once we understand how modern money works, we understand that we, the people, have all the money we need to do everything that we all decide that we want to do. And one thing that we can decide to do is to give the opportunity for people that we like, candidates that we like, and give them all the money they need to compete with those wealthy oligarchs, the what I call the unholy trinity, making dollar for dollar, matching dollar for dollar, right? Now, again, Bernie Sanders did that, and we still got cheated. This is why when we go with the Citizens Equality Act, along with that act comes ideas and strategies and laws that, like, for instance, gives us a whole day off to vote, right? Nobody works that day. We all have a day off. We all have the opportunity to vote. And there's just different things that we take a huge step in making sure that the vote is fair and not corrupt, right? So that the people have their opportunity to vote. So this is all important because, again, we have to fix this problem first. Once we fix this problem, now we can go forward and talk about all other things that is our the problem in our the problems in our country. Again, you have to so get out of the mindset that your vote, is counting. Because I'm sorry, it's not counting. It's not who we chose. Trump, Biden, Bush, Obama. We did not choose these people. Rich oligarchs chose those people, and then they gave them to us again. So I don't want to repeat myself, but that's where we stand. And the only way we can do that is through power. We have to put these people in a position where they are forced to give us what they want. And the only way we do that is we take that one thing that is the most powerful thing that the working class have. A lot of people might think it's money. A lot of people might even think that it's withholding our labor. But that's not really it. Truly, the most powerful weapon we have as a working class to accomplish free and fair election is time. That is the most important and powerful thing. When we tell those in power that we will not work for a period of time, that they are definitely scared of. Because what happens when working class people take the time to study, to debate, to talk, to strategize, to organize, to build coalitions, that's what they fear. And this is why when we argue that if you do in fact force us to go forward with a general strike where the truck drivers will shut the whole country down. They will not drive past Labor Day 2027 because you did not give us those two things that we're demanding. Number one, to reintroduce the Citizens Equality Act of 2017 and to pass that act. And number two, a mere vote on universal health care. We're not demanding that you give it to us. We just want to vote because we know that those representatives that we're going to be electing in the future will know where they stand when it comes to universal health care. See how that works? So the getting back to what I was talking about, the power is in time because they will not allow working class people to sit at home for 2 whole months. And it's not only that, it's the fact that if we're not working, we're not making money. And if we're not making money, we're not able to pay our rent if you rent or our mortgage if you're buying your home. The few of us that are able to buy our home. Now, I know that's a scary thing, a scary proposition for people to think that, oh my God, what are you saying? That I'm not going to work? I'm not going to get income? I've got bills to pay. I've got credit. I've worked 7, 10, 15 years keeping my credit. Don't tell me not to pay my bills because my credit will go to crap. You can't ask that of me. And I understand that argument. I understand how you feel if that's how you feel. But you also must understand that it is the very fact that we are in debt by design that is keeping us from having the power to fight back. Because as long as you're in high debt, you're working your butt off to pay that debt. And if you're too busy working, you don't have the time to study, to talk, to organize, to build coalitions. Now, when we take the time to say, I'm not going to worry about my credit, it will go to crap because 2 months is a long time. And I argue that in those 2 months, we're going to all decide that we're going to add another 4 months that we will not pay our rent or our mortgage. Now, that's powerful stuff. That they will pay very much attention to. And the reason why we're doing this is because we understand that that is the very core of what is keeping them in power. The fact that they're holding it over our head, the core tenet of capitalism is property rights, and you will pay your rent, you will pay your mortgage. But when a whole nation says, no, I'm not, because you think that you can take my country from me and continue this corrupt system, no. What happens here is a total reset. What happens here, because we're affecting the banks now, they not only have to reorganize how banks work, because we are going to demand that we elect politicians that are running for the nomination of whatever district, Congress, Senate, President, that they are not neoliberal. Because this time that we take, we will study and we will understand the true argument, the true fight that working class people, whether they wear a red suit or a blue suit, the true fight is neoliberalism and the neoliberal ideology that allows corporations to up the price on the working class people and get away with it and continue being rich at the expense and the backs of working class people who are struggling, to the fact that now, instead of actually making common sense policies, that they're doing everything they can except for change the paradigm. They're trade deals that, you know, are really dumb. How can you impose a tariff on other nations when you don't have a manufacturing base? That makes no sense. Everybody knows in order to have a tariff, you have to have a manufacturing base. I mean, it's common sense, you know? So I've stressed to you that the whole idea here, the argument here, is that when we take the time, go to my webpage. When you go to my webpage, at the very bottom, you'll see the logic, and you'll see premises and conclusions. Read that, and understand what this argument is, and understand that that is powerful stuff. That is very powerful. That it is right. Now, some people will say that no, it doesn't work that way. You have to organize first because, you know, you can't just ask everybody to give up and stop working for 2 months. You have to build mutual aid and you have to, hey, look, that makes a lot of sense. And understand history has taught us that this is how it works slowly, incrementally, you know, with people building coalitions and, you know, more and more people going on protests. I get it, and that does work. I'm just arguing that there's a better way. We can do it quickly. And the time required to build those coalitions and strategize and build mutual aid, that time we take in those 2 months. And then what's even better than that, that we will actually, as a society, have the finances available to help these people that fall through the cracks. Because we know that if we're forced to go through with this, there will be people that will be evicted from their apartment and kicked out of their homes. This is going to happen. But if we work together, if neighborhoods agree, when the man comes knocking on your door saying it's time for you to leave, we're evicting you, we are supporting that person because we have the finances and the income because we did not pay our rent or our mortgage for 6 whole months. And we're ready for this. And we might just agree that we're going to stretch that out to a year. You understand? Let's see them argue and fight against that. You see? It works. It will work. You just have to believe that it's a smart strategy. I argue that it'll never happen. I argue that we will never go on what I call a 60-day sabbatical. Because in my view, it really is a matter of the spirit. Either you're going to agree with the neoliberal and say, it's all about me. I take care of me. You take care of you. I'm not concerned about you. I'm just going to take care of me, the individual. Rich people take care of themselves by ensuring that their neoliberal policies allows them to create more and more profit. Or are we a nation who has the attitude that we are our brother's keeper and we have a responsibility to our neighbor? And that responsibility is to ensure that they have the best opportunity to prosper in a nation who is rich and has all the resources and all what it needs to prosper. But because of neoliberalism, they are not. They are not. They're being held captive by this idea that says, I have a right to my profits. Now, we're a capitalist nation. I'm not talking about socialism, communism. I'm talking about doing capitalism the right way. Compete, subsidize, intervene when the market is trying to monopolize, you know, decency. I'm talking about decency. We can have a society and a government that governs in a decent way with decent policies that allows that person who built a brand new, invented a new widget, give them more money. That's fine. I'm not, okay, fine. Give them more money. You deserve it. But by God, don't to a point where you can't even you have homeless people in the streets because you want your profits and I don't have to go through all that. You understand that. Look, my webpage isn't this argument, this strategy, what I'm doing here isn't explaining what's wrong. You have plenty of people to tell you what's wrong. You can go anywhere on the internet and they'll tell you what's wrong. I'm all about a solution, a true blue, powerful solution to this problem. And that solution comes with an understanding. Four things. You have to know what you're fighting, which is neoliberalism. You have to know that there's an alternative way to run a society, which is a better understanding of how modern money works through the insights of what is called modern monetary theory, which is actually a description of how a federal government who issues its own currency and has a free-floating fiat currency spends and taxes. It's not left, it's not right, it's apolitical. It's just a description about the truth of how this works. And out of that, wealthy oligarchs and the military industrial corporate, whatever you call that, have made a killing on making weapons that actually are not really good weapons, from what I understand. Or we could use that money for the social good and welfare of the people, like it says in our Constitution, in order to for a more perfect union and for the health and well-being of its citizens. We're talking about the health and well-being of my brother, of your brother, of our citizenship. You see, you can't deny that this doesn't make sense. You have to see that it makes perfect sense and it's very powerful. Then you have to ask yourself, why wouldn't you do it? I can only come up with one reason: that you don't believe in yourself, that you don't believe in your neighbor, that that's the only thing, that you just don't believe it. And I refuse to believe that. I flat out refuse that most people in America don't care about their fellow neighbor in this way, that will go to this extent to fight for their fellow neighbor. I just refuse to believe it. I'm sorry. I just refuse to believe that. So, uh, so please consider what this proposition is. Consider this and join the movement. We're not asking, we're not backed by any organization. We're not backed by Jim Soros money or Koch brothers money, none of that. This is just regular, everyday, hardworking people that hear the message, understand the strategies, and say, I'm going to make a decision to fight. Put on the red and white, go out there and tell everybody you know. Listen, you don't have to say fight for decency. You can create your own website, but make sure that you cover those four things, so four prerequisites. Okay? Thanks for hearing me out. And what can I say? Believe in yourself and fight. Fight for decency.